throughout the regular season, I've seen a couple of Iowa games, but not enough to get a complete package of what the team brings. When I was watching the videos leading up to game day, the one thing that always stuck out to me was their defense, especially their secondary. From what I was seeing and hearing, they I think they were the number one or number two um, like best secondary in college football, something like that.
Mm.
So that kind of made me kind of nervous, but at the same time, with our offense, we pass, but it's not an overload, and we don't do a lot of deep threat balls.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that with the right game plan and Josh Gaddis, obviously everybody knowing the score now, we've conquered that. Um, so yeah, I mean overall it was a great team win. Coming to the end of the game, and kind of as a fan, it felt like a dream just because we haven't been there since this whole Big Ten championship game has taken off. I think back in 2011 they said so. Being here for the first time, or being there for the first time, and also winning, it was it was history in the making for the Wolverines. And to answer your second question, I do think this team, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a fan, but our quarterback Cade said probably week two or week no, it was against Nebraska, I believe, that he thinks that this team is different, and that was no disrespect to previous Michigan teams, but after seeing what I saw through the regular season and now obviously against Ohio State and then winning the Big Ten championship. I mean, this team, um, I think in the eyes in the top four are still the underdog, but they have that wolf mentality of we're not done yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think obviously we'll dive deep into it later, but and I told you I'd rather play Georgia than Alabama first round. So I think that the more and more I'm doing research, I think that obviously their strong suit is their defensive front, but at the same time our strong suit is our offensive line. So it's gonna definitely be a clash of titans. It's gonna be a good first round. So
Yeah, I think for the Big Ten game, I think Michigan followed their formula pretty well. I mean, all they made big plays when it counted, especially pass plays.
mm,
They ran the ball well. They played dominant defense. And I mean, yeah, I think you said it best. I think we'll get into it later, but I think for Michigan Georgia, that's going to be a slugfest. I don't expect any team or either of those teams to score over 20 points.
mm,
And if it is, if someone does, I'd be pretty shocked. I think Michigan does have a chance. Um, I think I think we're all rooting for Michigan Alabama championship. That'd be awesome.
it would.
But yeah, I think Michigan. I think they're a very unique college football team. They're a very unique elite college football team in the sense that a lot of the great teams now have really fantastic quarterback play and everything else kind of follows. Like
Yeah,
Bama's been following that path for a couple of years now after they basically ran the country with dominant defenses. Cade McNamara is not a fantastic quarterback, but he's a quarterback that doesn't really make a whole lot of mistakes. He might throw a pick here and there,
mm,
but he's a really good game manager, and he's not asked to do a whole lot, which I think is one of the reasons why Michigan is so good. They just need him to not really mess up
yeah,
very much, and he doesn't mess up very much. So that's really good for them. Um, so I do think that Michigan does have a chance. I think anything can happen in this year when there's been a lot of wacky upsets and a lot of unconventional things happening. So I do think Michigan could make a run, but we'll see.
yeah.
Um, so we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Moving on to the SEC. Um, the SEC championship game. So a lot of people thought Georgia was going to win that game against Bama. It was clear pretty, not like completely early on, but like pretty early on, people knew that Bama was going to beat Georgia. It was 38-17 at one point. Georgia obviously was the number one ranked team in the country heading into that game, and Bama was, I believe, number three. Um, and Bama just beat the brakes off them, pretty much wire to wire. I mean, their offense just completely outclassed that Georgia defense. It's gained a lot of national recognition. And Bryce Young put a Heisman staple in his cap. So Matt, that Alabama Georgia game. So the final score was 41-24 Alabama. What did you think of that game? And where do you think Bama stands right now, heading into the playoff?
Well, first off, I think that going into their first round playoff game against Cincinnati, I think that they have all the confidence in the world. Um, the question is going into the SEC championship. You got to ask yourself, were they really an underdog despite their ranking? You know what I'm saying? Alabama is Alabama at the end of the day.
Hmm.
Um, and, you know, I think especially after the Auburn game, I felt like that's when, their pace was starting to pick up. But like, yeah, I think that when people saw that Georgia was number one in the nation, that kind of made them feel that with Alabama's season, they weren't going to be as strong as they were in years past. So that was going to end up being a Georgia win. Come to find out, it was in the beginning. It was going back and forth, but then after halftime, they took off.
Mm.
Um, so I think that with them winning the SEC championship game, I think that obviously, I feel like in this next round they are the favorites to win, but also they're the favorites to head to the championship, and I think that it's definitely doable. Um, all